They were about to execute her for stealing a single piece of bread when a vampire king said 5 words that froze the entire court in place. The great hall of obsidian stone had never been silent, not like this. Hundreds of eyes watched as the girl stood trembling at the center, her fingers still curled around a small, uneven piece of bread. The guards had dragged her across polished black marble floors, past tables filled with untouched food and goblets of dark wine. She had not fought them. She had not begged. She had only held onto the bread like it was the last thing tethering her to life. Her name was Lily Carter, and for 3 days she had eaten nothing but water and pride. Tonight, both had run out. Before continuing, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you cannot miss. The guards tightened their grip on her arms as the court waited for the command. At the far end of the hall, elevated above all others, sat King Lucien Voss. He did not move. He did not blink. His presence alone pressed down on the room like winter air before a storm. Pale skin, dark hair, eyes that seemed to burn beneath stillness. He had ruled for over 600 years, and in all that time, no human had ever touched the royal table and lived. The bread in Lily's hand was not meant for human hunger. It was part of an ancient ritual placed there under candlelight older than the city itself. And yet she had taken it, not with greed, not with defiance, but with quiet desperation. A faint glow flickered beneath her fingers, so subtle that only the oldest among them noticed. A symbol, ancient and nearly forgotten, stirred beneath the surface of the bread like something waking from a long sleep. Murmurs spread through the court like a ripple through still water. Some rose from their seats. Others whispered words that had not been spoken in centuries. The council members exchanged sharp glances, their expressions shifting from irritation to something far more dangerous. Fear. One of them stepped forward, his voice cold and precise, declaring that the girl must be executed immediately before the ritual was compromised. The guards began to move. Steel flashed under torchlight. Lily closed her eyes, not in surrender, but in quiet acceptance. Somewhere far away, she could almost hear her younger brother's voice asking if she had found anything to eat. Her grip tightened on the bread. She had not stolen it for herself. And that was when the king finally stood. The movement was subtle, but it changed everything. The air shifted. The candles flickered. Every voice in the hall died instantly. He descended the steps slowly, each footstep echoing with unnatural clarity. No one dared to breathe as he approached her. When he stopped, he was close enough to see the faint tremor in her hands, the exhaustion in her eyes, the stubborn strength that refused to break. He looked not at the guards, not at the council, but at the bread in her hand, then at her, and in a voice so soft it felt like a blade against the throat, he asked, "Are you hungry, or were you chosen?" The question hung in the air like a blade that had not yet decided where to fall. Lily Carter opened her eyes slowly. The world had narrowed to the man standing in front of her. King Lucien Voss did not raise his voice. He did not need to. The silence around him obeyed. The guards still held her arms, but their grip had loosened, as if even they were waiting for her answer before deciding whether she lived or died. Lily swallowed. Her throat burned with dryness. Her body screamed for food, for rest, for anything that would keep her from collapsing. But something deeper held her steady, something stubborn and unyielding. She looked down at the bread in her hand, then back at the king. "I'm not hungry," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, but clear. A ripple moved through the court. Some laughed under their breath. Others stiffened. The council member who had called for her execution stepped forward again, his expression sharpening. "Liar," he said. "Every human is hungry. That is what they are." The guards tightened their grip again, ready to drag her away. But the king lifted one finger. The movement was small. The effect was absolute. No one moved. No one spoke. Lily felt the shift immediately. The weight in the room changed, like the moment before lightning struck. Lucien studied her with a gaze that felt like it could peel away everything. She was hiding. Then he asked again, slower this time, as if testing not her words, but her soul. "Then why take it?" Lily hesitated. Her fingers tightened around the bread. For a moment, she considered lying, saying anything that might save her life. But the truth rose before fear could stop it. Because someone else's, she said, "My brother. He has not eaten in 2 days." The words landed harder than any shout. The court did not erupt this time. It stilled. Even the council member paused, caught off guard by the answer. A faint sound echoed through the hall. Not from the crowd, from the bread. Lily flinched as warmth spread across her palm. The faint glow from before returned, stronger now. Lines of light traced across the crust, forming a pattern that pulsed like a heartbeat. Several vampires stepped back. One of them whispered a word that had not been spoken in generations. Impossible. The council member recovered first. Destroy it, he ordered sharply, before it completes the selection. The guards moved again, reaching for her hand. But they never touched her. Lucien was suddenly between them. No one saw him move. One moment he stood several feet away. The next he was there, his presence cutting off all approach. "Touch her." "And you answered me," he said quietly. His voice did not rise. It did not need to. Power rippled through the hall, pressing every vampire back into silence. Lily stared at him, her breath catching. She could feel it now. Not just the warmth in the bread. Something else. Something older. It moved beneath her skin like a distant echo. The king looked down at her hand. The glowing pattern had changed. It was no longer just on the bread. It had begun to mirror itself faintly against her palm, as if something inside her was answering the call. His expression shifted just slightly. Not anger, not hunger, something far more dangerous. Recognition. The council member stepped forward again, more cautious now. "My lord," he said, his tone controlled but tense. "You know what this means. If the ritual has chosen her, she cannot remain free. She must be contained until we understand what she is." "What she is," Lucien repeated softly, as if tasting the words. His gaze returned to Lily. She felt it settle on her like a weight she could not escape. For the first time since being dragged into the hall, fear truly took hold. Not of death, but of something far worse. Being claimed by something she did not understand. The king reached out slowly. The entire court held its breath. When his fingers hovered just above her hand, the glow surged. Bright, alive. The candles along the walls flickered violently. A low hum filled the air, deep and ancient. Then, without touching her, he stopped. His hand remained suspended between them. His voice dropped to something only she could hear. This was never about hunger, was it? Lily cannot answer. Her heart pounded too loudly. Her thoughts tangled. The warmth in her palm burned now, not painfully, but insistently, like something trying to wake her from within. Behind them, the council began to murmur again, their voices rising with unease. The words spread from one to another, growing sharper each time it was repeated. Chosen. The king straightened slowly, his expression sealing into something unreadable. Then he turned to the guards. "Release her," he said. The command echoed through the hall. No one questioned it. No one dared. The hands gripping Lily vanished instantly. She staggered slightly, but did not fall. Lucien stepped back, creating space but not distance. "You will not leave this place tonight," he continued. His tone left no room for argument. "Not as a prisoner. Not yet, but as something far more dangerous." Lily clutched the glowing bread, her pulse racing as the meaning of his words settled in. The doors of the great hall began to close behind her with a deep, echoing sound. And for the first time, she realized the truth. She had not just been caught stealing. She had stepped into something that had been waiting for her long before she was born. The door sealed with a final echo that rolled through the great hall like distant thunder. And in that sound, Lily Carter felt the last thread of her old life snap. The glow in her hand dimmed slightly, but it did not disappear. It pulsed now, slower, deeper, as if it had settled into her rather than the bread itself. The court remained frozen, every eye tracking her, not as prey anymore, but as something unknown. That was worse. A guard stepped forward, not roughly this time, but with a controlled caution that made Lily more uneasy than violence ever could. "This way," he said, his voice low. She hesitated, her gaze flicking once toward the massive doors behind her, now sealed shut. No escape, not even the illusion of one. She followed. The hall seemed longer now as she walked, her worn shoes echoing against marble that had never known hunger. The scent of untouched food lingered in the air, rich and distant, like a memory that did not belong to her anymore. She tightened her grip on the bread. Not for herself. Never for herself. As they moved through towering corridors lined with dark stone and flickering candlelight, the temperature dropped. The warmth from the bread became her only anchor. Behind her, she could feel it. Not footsteps. Not sound. Presence. The king was following. She did not need to turn to know. The air changed when he was near. Heavy. Cold. Watching. They reached a set of tall, iron doors etched with symbols she could not understand. The guard stopped and pushed them open. Inside was not a dungeon. That surprised her. The room was large. Clean. A single bed stood against the far wall, draped in dark fabric. A table. A chair. A window too narrow to climb through. Not a prison, but not freedom either. She stepped inside slowly. The guard remained at the door, waiting, as if for something, or someone. A moment later, the air shifted again. Lily felt it before she heard it. The king entered without a sound. The guard lowered his head immediately and stepped back, closing the door behind him. Now it was just the two of them. Lily stood near the center of the room, unsure whether to move or stay still. Her instincts screamed at her to keep distance, but something else held her in place. Something tied to the steady pulse in her palm. Lucien Voss did not rush. He circled her slowly, not like a predator about to strike, but like someone studying a rare and dangerous artifact. His gaze never left her. "You should be dead," he said finally. His voice was calm, matter of fact. Lily swallowed. "I have been told that before," she answered quietly. For a brief moment, something flickered in his expression. Not amusement, something quieter. Then it vanished. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could see the faint red beneath. The gray of his eyes. "Give it to me," he said. Lily looked down at the bread. The glow responded instantly, brightening as if it understood the request. Her fingers tightened. "No," she said before she could stop herself. The word hung between them, sharp and fragile. The temperature in the room dropped further. Any other guard, any other moment, and that word would have ended her life. But Lucien did not move. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, studying her again. "You refuse your king," he said softly. Lily lifted her chin, though her heart pounded against her ribs. "It is not yours," she said. "It was on a table, yes, but it was not meant for you either." The silence that followed was dangerous. Then, slowly, something changed. The glow spread further across her palm, no longer confined to the bread. Fine lines of light traced up her wrist like veins of gold. Lucien saw it. His gaze sharpened. "Interesting," he murmured. He stepped closer. This time, when he reached out, his fingers brushed just above her skin. Not touching, but close enough that she felt a pull like gravity shifting. The glow surged again. The air in the room trembled. Lily gasped softly as a memory that was not hers flickered behind her eyes. A hall. Not this one. Older. Brighter. A voice calling a name she did not recognize. She staggered slightly. Lucien caught the movement instantly. "What did you see?" he asked, his voice lower now, more urgent. Lily shook her head, trying to clear it. "I do not know," she whispered, but the truth was something inside her had answered. The king studied her for a long moment. Then he stepped back, creating distance again, but his attention never left her. "You will stay here tonight," he said. "No one enters without my command. No one leaves." His tone carried finality. Then, after a pause, he added, "Eat." Lily blinked, startled. He nodded toward the bread still in her hand. Slowly, carefully she lifted it. The glow softened as it neared her lips. She hesitated, then took a small bite. The moment she did, the light pulsed once more. Stronger, deeper, somewhere far beyond the walls of the room. Something ancient stirred in response. And Lucien Voss, who had not felt surprise in centuries, realized that whatever had been awakened tonight was not something he could control. The moment the bread touched her tongue, something inside the castle answered. It was not a sound at first. It was a shift. Deep beneath the stone floors, older than the walls, older than the throne, something ancient stirred awake like it had been waiting through centuries of silence. Lily Carter felt it before she understood it. The small bite she had taken should have eased the sharp ache in her stomach. It did not. Instead, warmth spread through her chest, then outward like a second heartbeat waking beneath her ribs. She froze. The room seemed to tilt for a second, not physically, but in a way that made her grip the edge of the table to steady herself. The glow on her hand changed again. It was no longer soft. It was alive. Lines of gold light moved slowly across her skin, forming patterns that shifted as if they were thinking. Lucien Voss did not look away, not even for a moment. He saw everything. The change in her breathing, the tightening of her fingers, the way the air itself reacted to her presence now, pulling slightly inward as if drawn to her. He had seen magic before. He had commanded it. He had broken it. But this was different. This was not responding to him. It was responding to her. The candles along the walls flickered again, this time not from a draft, but from pressure. A low vibration filled the room, too deep to be called a sound, more like the echo of something vast moving far below them. Lily looked up, her eyes wide, confusion breaking through her fear. "What is happening?" she whispered. Lucien answered without hesitation. "You are," he said. The words should not have made sense, and yet they did. Somewhere in the back of her mind, a memory tried to form again. Not clear, not complete, just fragments. A long table covered in white cloth instead of black stone. Voices speaking a language she did not know, but somehow understood. A hand reaching toward hers, marked with the same golden lines that now burned beneath her skin. Lily gasped and pulled her hand back as if she could escape it. The glow flared brighter in response. "No," she said under her breath, shaking her head. "This is not real." But it was. Lucien stepped closer again, slower this time, careful in a way that did not match his nature. His voice lowered, no longer the command of a king, but something quieter, more controlled. "Tell me what you see." Lily hesitated. The instinct to stay silent fought against the pressure building inside her. It felt like if she did not speak, something inside her would. "There is a room," she said finally, her voice unsteady. "Not this one. Brighter. And there is someone there. I cannot see their face. But they're calling me." The air in the room went still. Completely still. Lucien did not move. Did not blink. "What name?" he asked. Lily closed her eyes, trying to grasp it, but the moment she reached for it, it slipped away like smoke. "I do not know," she said, frustration rising. "I almost heard it. Almost the ground beneath them trembled. Just slightly. But enough. Enough to break the moment." Lucien turned his head sharply toward the door, his senses stretching far beyond the room. Something had changed. Not just here. In the entire castle. Beyond the walls, deep in the lower levels where even most vampires did not go, something had awakened fully. He felt it now. The same pull. The same recognition. Ancient. Dangerous. And tied directly to the girl standing in front of him. He turned back to her slowly. His expression was no longer unreadable. There was something else there now. Something closer to realization. "You did not trigger the ritual," he said quietly. His eyes locked onto hers. "You are the ritual." Lily stared at him, the words hitting her like something solid. "That does not make any sense," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm nobody. I was just trying to take food home." But even as she said it, the glow on her hand pulsed again, stronger, as if rejecting the idea itself. Lucien stepped back this time, putting space between them, not for her sake, but for his own calculation. If what he was beginning to suspect was true, then this was no longer a simple matter of control or containment. This was something far older than his reign, far older than his kind, and if the council realized it fully, they would not hesitate. They would destroy her before they allowed it to grow. A sharp knock echoed against the door. "Urgent." Controlled. "My lord," a voice called. From the other side. "You need to see this." Lucien did not look away from Lily as he answered. "Speak." There was a pause. Then the voice returned, tighter now. "The lower chambers. The sealed vault. It has opened." Silence fell again. But this time it was different. He knew what was in that vault, or rather, would have been locked away inside it for centuries. Something no one had been able to awaken. Until now. Lucien's gaze returned to Lily's glowing hand, then back to her face. And for the first time since she had been dragged into his world, there was no question left in his voice. Only certainty. What have you become? He asked quietly. But deep down, he already knew the answer. And it terrified him more than anything that had lived or died in his kingdom. The word vault did not belong in a place like this. It sounded too final, too sealed, too buried. And yet the moment Lily Carter heard it, something inside her reacted like it recognized the word before her mind could understand it. The glow on her hand pulsed once. Then again, stronger. The room felt smaller now, the air heavier, like the castle itself was holding its breath. Lucien Voss did not move immediately. That alone told Lily how serious this was. A king who ruled for over 600 years did not hesitate without reason. The knock came again, sharper this time. My lord, the voice said from the other side. The seal is broken. We cannot contain what is happening below. Lily felt the words settle into her chest like a weight. Contain. Below. Something about it made her skin prickle. She did not know why. She had never been here before. And yet a strange certainty crept into her thoughts. Whatever had opened, it had been waiting for her. Lucien finally turned. His movement was controlled, but faster than before. When he reached the door, he did not open it right away. Instead, he spoke through it. Who else knows? A pause. Then the answer. The council is already gathering. They believe this is because of the girl. Lily's stomach dropped. Of course they did. She tightened her grip on the edge of the table. The fading warmth of the bread, now replaced by something deeper, something that did not need food to exist. Lucien closed. His eyes for a brief moment. Not in weakness. In calculation. When he opened them again, the cold control had returned, but something beneath it had shifted. Something sharper. More dangerous. No one enters this room, he said. Not without my command. His tone left no room for interpretation. The guard on the other side did not argue. Yes, my lord. The footsteps retreated quickly. Silence followed. But it was not empty. It was filled with the distant hum that had begun to rise from beneath the castle. Lily could feel it now. Clearer. Closer. It was not just below. It was reaching upward. Toward her. She stepped back instinctively. I did not do anything, she said, her voice tight with fear. I just took bread. That is all. But even as she said it, she knew it was not true anymore. The moment she had touched it, something had changed. Something that could not be undone. Lucien turned back to her slowly. His gaze locked onto hers, not with anger, but with something far more unsettling. Certainty. You did not mean to, he said. But intent does not matter to something this old. Lily shook her head. I do not understand. I understand this, he said, stepping closer again. The vault beneath this castle has not opened in over 400 years. Not for power. Not for blood. Not even for me. The words settled heavily between them. Lily felt her breath catch. Then why now? She asked, barely able to keep her voice steady. Lucien did not answer immediately. He did not need to. The glow on her hand flared again, brighter than before. The lines had spread further now, reaching past her wrist, faint but undeniable. Alive. He looked at it, then back at her. Because it recognizes you, he said quietly. The truth of it hit harder than anything else. Lily staggered slightly, her back brushing against the edge of the bed. No, she whispered. That is not possible. I have never been here. I am nobody. But the castle disagreed. A deep rumble echoed through the floor, stronger this time. Dust shifted from the ceiling. Somewhere far below, something massive moved. Not blindly. Not randomly. Purposefully. The hum turned into something closer to a pulse. Slow. Steady. Matching the rhythm, now beating beneath Lily's skin. Lucien felt it too. He turned his head slightly, listening. To something only he could fully hear. Then he made a decision. We're going down there, he said. The words were calm. Final. Lily's eyes widened. What? No. I'm not going anywhere near that. Whatever that is. But even as she spoke, the pull inside her tightened. Not forcing her. Not controlling her. Calling her. Lucien stepped toward the door again. You do not have a choice, he said without looking back. If what is waking below fully rises without control, it will not stop at this castle. It will not stop at this city. It will not stop at anything. Lily's fear sharpened into something else. Something colder. What is it? She asked. Lucien paused, his hand resting against the iron door. For the first time, there was no distance in his voice. No royal detachment. Only truth. It is the first power my kind ever feared, he said. And tonight it woke because of you. The door opened. Cold air rushed in from the corridor beyond, carrying with it a deeper, older darkness. Lily stood frozen for a second. Then the glow on her hand pulsed again. And despite every instinct telling her to run, her feet moved forward, toward the thing that had been waiting for her long before she was born. The descent began without ceremony, but the deeper they went, the more the castle seemed to change around them. The corridors narrowed. The polished stone gave way to older walls, rough and uneven, carved long before the current throne existed. The air grew colder with every step, not the clean cold of winter, but something heavier, older, like a place that had not felt warmth in centuries. Lily Carter followed a few steps behind Lucien Voss, though she did not remember deciding to move. Her body responded to something she could not see. The glow along her hand had spread further now, thin lines of gold tracing faint patterns up her arm. They pulsed in time with the distant rhythm below, each step pulling her deeper into something she did not understand. They passed guards stationed along the lower halls, each one stepping aside instantly at the sight of their king. But their eyes did not stay on him. They followed Lily, not with contempt, not with hunger, with unease. One of them tightened his grip on his weapon as she passed, as if unsure whether he was meant to protect her or defend against her. The hum grew louder, no longer subtle. It filled the space around them, vibrating through the stone, through the air, through Lily's bones. She pressed her hand briefly against the wall as they moved, and for a moment the world shifted again. A flash, not a memory, of recognition. This path, these walls. She had never seen them before, and yet something inside her knew where they led. She pulled her hand back quickly, her breath unsteady. I can feel it, she said under her breath. Lucien did not slow. So can I, he replied, but not like you. They reached a final set of doors, larger than the others, reinforced with dark metal that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. Symbols were carved across their surface, deeper and more intricate than anything above. Lily stared at them, her chest tightening. The moment her gaze touched the markings, the glow on her arms surged. The symbols answered, faint at first, then brighter. The guard stationed there stepped back immediately. My lord, one of them said, his voice tight. It began reacting the moment she entered this level. We cannot get close after that. Lucien nodded once, then stepped forward. He placed his hand against the door, but it did not open. Not for him. His jaw tightened slightly. He had expected that. He turned his head toward Lily. Step forward, he said. Lily hesitated. Everything inside her told her this was the point of no return. That whatever waited beyond those doors was not something she could walk away from. But the pull inside her had grown too strong to ignore. It was no longer a whisper. It was a call. She stepped forward slowly, her breath shallow, her hand trembling as she lifted it toward the door. The moment her skin hovered near the surface, the reaction was immediate. Light exploded across the carved symbols, racing along the lines like fire catching dry wood. The hum deepened into a sound that filled the entire chamber, low and powerful, like something ancient taking its first breath after a long sleep. The doors unlocked with a heavy, echoing crack. The guard stepped back even further. None of them spoke. None of them moved. Lily's hand pressed flat against the cold surface. It was no longer cold. It felt alive. She did not push. She did not need to. The doors opened on their own. Slowly, deliberately. Darkness waited beyond. Not empty darkness. Something denser. Something that seemed to swallow the light from the hallway behind them. Lily took a step back instinctively, her pulse racing. Lucien stepped forward instead. He did not hesitate. That was the difference between them. He had faced monsters older than memory. He had become one of them, but even he could feel it. This was not something he had ever ruled. He glanced back at her once. "Stay behind me," he said. For the first time, it was not an order. It was a warning. Lily nodded, though she was not sure she could obey it. The pull inside her tightened as the darkness shifted. A shape began to form within it. Not fully visible, not fully real, but present, watching, waiting. The glow along her arm burned brighter, almost painful now, as if something inside her was responding to the presence beyond the door. Lucian took another step forward into the chamber. The air dropped sharply, frost forming along the edges of the stone. The shape in the darkness moved again. This time it was closer. And then, from within that ancient void, a voice emerged. Not loud, not echoing, but unmistakable. It did not speak to the king. It did not speak to the guards. It spoke only to her. "You took too long," it said. Lily's breath caught. Her heart stopped for a single, impossible second, because she understood the voice. Not the words, but the feeling behind them. It was not anger. It was not hunger. It was recognition. And, somehow, deep inside her, she knew the truth before she could stop herself from thinking it. Whatever had been sealed in this place had not just awakened because of her. It had been waiting for her to return. The voice did not echo, yet it filled every corner of the chamber as if the stone itself carried it forward. And in that moment, Lily Carter realized something far more terrifying than darkness or monsters. It knew her, not as a stranger, not as prey, but as something expected. She took an unsteady step back, her breath shallow, her pulse racing so hard it blurred the edges of her vision. "I do not know you," she said, her voice trembling despite the strength rising inside her. The darkness shifted in response, not offended, not angered, but patient. It moved like something that had no need to rush, something that had waited long enough to understand time differently than humans ever could. Lucian Voss stepped forward, placing himself fully between Lily and the unseen presence, his body angled slightly, not blocking her completely, but ready. His voice cut through the tension, calm and absolute. "You will speak to me," he said, not her. For a moment, the chamber stilled. Then the darkness answered, softer this time, but sharper. "You do not command what came before your crown." The words landed with weight, not just defiance. Truth. The air tightened. Even the guards at the far end of the hall shifted uneasily, though none dared to step inside. Lucian's eyes narrowed slightly, the faint red beneath the gray burning brighter. "I command everything within these walls," he replied. The darkness moved again, closer now, forming a shape that almost resembled a figure, though it never fully solidified. "And yet you seal me here," it said. "You feared what you could not control. That is not command. That is surrender." Lily felt the words strike something deep inside her, like a memory she could not fully reach. The glow along her arm pulsed sharply in response, brighter than it had been before. Lucian did not react outwardly, but Lily could feel the shift in him. Not fear, not exactly, but recognition of a threat he could not dismiss. "You were sealed long before my reign," he said. "Do not mistake history for weakness." The darkness seemed to tilt slightly, as if considering him. Then its attention shifted back to Lily. The pull inside her intensified instantly. It was no longer distant. It was right there, reaching, calling. "Come closer," the voice said, not as an order, but as an invitation. Lily's body responded before her mind could stop it. She took one step forward, then another. Lucian moved instantly, his hand catching her arm, stopping her before she crossed the threshold into the chamber. "Stay behind me," he said, his voice low, edged with warning. Lily looked up at him, her eyes wide, conflicted. "I cannot," she whispered. "It is calling me." The glow along her arms surged again, spreading further, wrapping faintly around her shoulder now, as if something inside her was waking piece by piece. Lucian felt it. Not just the power, the connection. And for the first time since this began, something cold settled in his chest. Not anger, not control, Something far more dangerous. Uncertainty. The darkness spoke again, this time softer, almost gentle. You always resisted at first. Lily froze. The words hit differently. Not like a threat. Like a memory being repeated. What does that mean? She asked, her voice barely steady. The shape within the darkness shifted again, becoming clearer for a brief moment. Not a face, not a body, but something structured, something ancient and deliberate. You chose them once, it said. You chose to stand with them, and they feared what you would become. Lily's mind reeled. That is not possible, she said quickly. I have never been here. I have never seen any of this. The darkness did not argue. It did not need to. It simply waited, and in that silence, something inside Lily stirred again. A fragment, a feeling, a choice. Not hers, but somehow still hers. Lucien's grip tightened slightly on her arm, grounding her. Enough, he said, his voice cutting through the moment like steel. You will not manipulate her with half-truths. If you have something to say, you will say it clearly. The chamber seemed to pulse once in response. Then the voice returned, deeper now, more certain. She is not what you think she is, it said. She never was. Lily's breath caught. The glow along her arm burned brighter, almost painful now, as if reacting to the truth in those words. Lucien did not release her, but his gaze shifted, studying her again, this time not as a subject, not as a threat, but as something far more complex. Then say what she is, he demanded. The darkness grew still, completely still, and for a moment, even the hum beneath the castle seemed to pause. When the voice spoke again, it carried something new. Not power, not command, something closer to certainty. She is the one who sealed me, it said. The word struck like a shockwave. Lily's body went rigid. Her thoughts fractured. That is not true, she said immediately, her voice rising, desperate. I cannot have done that. I am no one. But the glow along her arm flared violently, spreading higher, brighter, undeniable. Lucien felt it, saw it, understood the implication before she could. His grip loosened slightly, not from weakness, but from realization. If that is true, he said slowly, his voice quieter now, more controlled than ever. Then she is not the key. The darkness answered before he could finish the thought. She is the lock, it said. And tonight, she has begun to open. The word lock did not fade when it was spoken. It remained in the air like something alive, something that had always been there, but had only now been named. Lily Carter felt it settle deep inside her chest, heavy and undeniable. Her breath became uneven. Her thoughts scattered, trying to reject what she had just heard, but the glow along her arm refused to let her deny it. It pulsed brighter, stronger, as if confirming every word. No, she said again, shaking her head, her voice breaking under the weight of it. That is not possible. I have never been here. I have never done anything like that. Lucien Voss did not answer immediately. His eyes remained fixed on her arm, on the spreading lines of light that now reached past her shoulder, faint but growing. He had seen ancient magic. He had seen binding spells, blood oaths, rituals that tied souls across centuries. But this was something else. This was not a spell placed on her. This was something that belonged to her. The darkness within the chamber shifted again, slow and deliberate, as if it had expected this moment. Denial is the first door, it said quietly. You will remember. You always do. The words struck deeper than before, not because they were louder, but because something inside Lily reacted to them. A crack. Small, barely noticeable, but real. Her hand trembled as she pressed it against her chest, trying to steady the rhythm that was no longer entirely her own. I do not want to remember, she whispered. For the first time, the darkness did not respond immediately. It waited, and that silence was more terrifying than any answer. Behind her, at the edge of the chamber, movement broke the stillness. The council had arrived. They did not rush in. They never did. Power like theirs did not need urgency. It moved with certainty. A tall figure stepped forward first, his expression cold, his gaze fixed not on the king, but on Lily. My lord, he said, his voice controlled but edged with tension. This has gone far enough. The girl must be removed. Now, the others behind him murmured in agreement, their voices low, sharp, dangerous. She is the cause of this. You can feel it. Whatever is awakening is tied to her. We cannot allow it to continue. Lucien did not turn. He did not acknowledge them right away. His attention remained on Lily. That alone was enough to unsettle the entire room. You are speaking out of fear, he said finally, his voice calm but absolute. The council member stepped forward another pace, his composure tightening. We're speaking out of survival. If what that thing claims is true, then she is not just a risk. She is a threat to everything we have built. Lily flinched at the word threat. The glow along her arm pulsed again, reacting to the tension in the room. The air thickened, the hum beneath the castle growing louder in response. Lucien turned slowly this time, his gaze sweeping over the council. "And what would you do?" he asked. The answer came without hesitation. "End it before it completes," the council member said. "Kill her." The word landed like a blade. The guards at the entrance stiffened. Even the air seemed to freeze. Lily's breath caught. Her fingers curled tightly at her sides, the light along her skin flaring instinctively, not in defense, but in reaction. For a single moment, silence consumed everything. Then Lucien stepped forward. Not toward Lily. Toward them. "No," he said. The word was quiet. Final. The council member's expression hardened. "My lord, you do not understand what you are protecting." "That is where you are wrong," Lucien replied. His voice did not rise, but it carried through the chamber with absolute authority. "I understand exactly what stands before us, and none of you will touch her." The tension snapped tight. Several members of the council shifted, their restraint thinning. "You would risk the entire kingdom for a human girl," one of them said sharply. Lucien's gaze did not waver. "She is not human," he said. The words settled heavily over the room. Lily felt them like a second impact, her heart pounding harder, faster. She wanted to deny it, to fight it, but the truth was already moving beneath her skin. The council reacted immediately, their unease turning into something more dangerous. "Then, that is even more reason to end this now," the first one said, "before whatever she is become something we cannot stop." The darkness behind them stirred again, as if amused by the argument. "You see," it said softly, its voice threading through the tension. "They have not changed. They fear what they do not control." Lucien ignored it. His focus remained on the council. "You will stand down," he said. "That is not a request." For a moment, it seemed like they might obey. Then one of them moved. Fast. Too fast for human eyes. A blade flashed in the dim light as he lunged toward Lily. The reaction was instant. Not from Lucien. From her. The glow erupted. Light burst outward from her arm in a wave that filled the chamber, not blinding, but overwhelming. The force stopped the council member mid-movement, throwing him back as if he had struck something immovable. He hit the stone wall hard, the blade clattering from his hand. Silence crashed down again. Lily stood frozen, her chest rising and falling rapidly, her eyes wide with shock. She had not chosen to do that. She had not even thought about it. Lucien turned slowly back toward her. This time, there was no doubt left in his gaze. No question, only realization. The power in the room had shifted. Not to him, not to the council, to her. And for the first time in centuries, the vampire king understood something he had never faced before. This was not a test he controlled anymore. This was a power that had chosen its own answer. The silence after the impact was heavier than the strike itself, pressing down on every soul in the chamber as if the castle had recognized a shift in power and chosen to hold its breath. The council member who had lunged lay against the stone wall, unmoving but not destroyed, his eyes wide with something he had not felt in centuries. Fear, not of the king, not of war, but of the girl standing at the center of the chamber, her arms still glowing with a light that no longer flickered or hesitated. It was steady now, alive. Lily Carter stared at her own hand as if it belonged to someone else. Her chest rose and fell too quickly, her breath uneven as she tried to understand what had just happened. "I did not do that," she said, her voice trembling, though no one in the room believed it. Not because she was lying, but because the truth had already outgrown her understanding. The glow along her arm responded again, pulsing once, as if answering her denial with quiet certainty. Lucien Voss stepped closer, his movement deliberate, controlled, but no longer distant. He did not look at the fallen council member. He did not look at the others who now stood frozen in uncertainty. He looked only at her. "You did not choose to," he said. "That does not mean it was not yours to command." The words did not comfort her. They made it worse. Lily shook her head, stepping back slightly, her hand pressing against her chest, as if she could push the light back inside. "I do not want this," she said. "I do not even understand what this is." Behind her, the darkness in the vault shifted again, more defined now, more aware. It watched the exchange with something that resembled patience. "One has never mattered," it said softly. "Only what you are." The council began to move again, slower this time, more cautious. Their earlier confidence had fractured, replaced by calculation. One of them knelt beside the fallen member, checking for signs of life, then looked up sharply. "He lives," he said, but his voice carried unease. The force that struck him did not tear. It stopped. Controlled. That word spread through them quickly. Controlled. Not wild. Not unstable. Directed. That changed everything. Lucien heard it too. His gaze sharpened slightly, not toward the council, but toward Lily again. Control implied intent, even if she did not understand it yet. The first council member rose slowly, his composure returning piece by piece. "Then that makes it worse," he said quietly. "If she can do that without knowing how, then what happens when she does learn?" The question hung in the air, unanswered, but heavy with implication. Lily felt it like a weight pressing down on her shoulders. They were not wrong. That was the part that terrified her most. The darkness behind them seemed to agree. It shifted forward slightly, its presence growing stronger, its voice threading through the tension like a quiet current. "You're beginning to see," it said. "She is not chaos. She is design." The word struck differently. Not fear, not destruction, something far more deliberate. Lucien turned his head slightly toward the voice, his expression tightening for the first time since they had entered the vault. "Enough," he said, his tone sharper now. "You will not guide this." The darkness did not retreat. It did not need to. It had already set something in motion. Lily felt it again. The pull. Stronger now. Not just toward the darkness. Toward something beyond it. Something deeper. The glow along her arms spread further, the lines sharpening into clearer patterns, no longer shifting randomly. They were forming something. A structure. A symbol she almost recognized. Her breath caught as another fragment of memory broke through. Not clear. Not complete. But stronger than before. She saw hands. Her hands. Not worn and trembling, but steady, marked with the same light. Pressed against a surface like the door behind them. Her voice, not the one in the darkness, but another. Calm. Familiar. Asking her if she was certain. Asking her if she understood what sealing it would cost. Lily staggered slightly, her knees weakening under the weight of it. Lucien reached out instinctively, catching her before she could fall. "What do you see?" he asked, his voice lower now, more urgent. Lily shook her head, her eyes unfocused. "I was here," she whispered. The words barely made it out, but they changed everything. The council stiffened instantly. Lucien did not release her. When he asked, Lily's gaze flickered toward the darkness, then back to the door, then to her own hand. "I do not know," she said, her voice breaking under the strain. "But I was not like this. I was stronger. I chose this." The chamber fell completely silent again. The pieces were beginning to align. Not fully, not clearly, but enough. Lucien's mind moved quickly, connecting what he had heard, what he had seen, what he had felt the moment she touched the ritual above. This was never about a random human girl. This was not chance. This was return. He looked at her differently now, not as a threat, not as a subject, as something far more dangerous, something that had once stood where he stood, and made a choice that still shaped the world beneath his rule. The council saw it too, and their fear shifted again, not away, but deeper. "Then she cannot remain," one of them said, his voice tight with urgency. If she sealed it once, she may release it now. And if she does, we will not survive what comes out. Lucien did not respond immediately. His grip on Lily remained steady, grounding her as the glow along her arm pulsed again, brighter than ever. He looked from her to the darkness, then back again. And for the first time since this began, the question was no longer what she was. It was what she would choose to become now. The question of what she would choose did not wait for an answer. The moment it formed, something deeper responded. The chamber trembled again, stronger this time, the vibration rising through the stone like a heartbeat that no longer belonged to the castle alone. Lily Carter felt it surge through her chest, matching the rhythm beneath her skin, pulling at something buried far beyond memory. Her knees weakened again, but she did not fall this time. Lucien Voss kept her steady, his hand firm against her arm, grounding her as the light continued to spread. The symbol was clearer now, not random, not shifting, defined, ancient, and unmistakably hers. The darkness within the vault moved closer, no longer hiding its presence behind shadows. It did not rush. It did not force. It waited, as if it knew the next step would not be taken by it, but by her. You remember now, it said quietly. Lily's breath caught. Images pressed harder against her mind, no longer fragments, but sequences struggling to take shape. She saw the same chamber, but brighter, the walls intact, the air not heavy with age. She stood in the center, her hand raised, the same light marking her skin, but stronger, complete. And in front of her, the same presence, but not contained. Not yet. A choice had been made there. She could feel it, the weight of it, the finality. I sealed you, she whispered, the words leaving her before she could stop them. The reaction was immediate. The council recoiled slightly, the tension in the room snapping tighter. Lucien's grip did not change, but his gaze sharpened, locking onto her face. You're certain? He asked. Lily shook her head, her voice unsteady. I do not know how, she said, but I know that I did. The darkness responded with something that almost resembled approval. You chose restraint over power, it said. You chose to bind what others would have wielded. The words settled into the room with a different weight this time. Not accusation, not threat, explanation. The council did not see it that way. That means she can undo it, one of them said immediately. If she sealed it, she can release it. And if that happens, Lucien cut him off without raising his voice. It will not happen without my command. The certainty in his tone silenced them, but not completely. Doubt lingered, sharp and dangerous. Lily felt it all pressing in at once. Their fear, the presence behind her, the growing force inside her that refused to remain quiet. I do not want this, she said again, but the words felt weaker now. Not because she believed them less, but because something inside her was beginning to disagree. The darkness shifted again, closer than before, the edge of its form brushing the boundary of chamber. One has never defined you, it said. Choice has. Lucien's eyes flickered toward it briefly, then back to Lily. That is enough, he said, his voice colder now. You will not shape her decision. The darkness did not argue. It did not need to. It had already planted the truth. Lily felt it, not as a command, as a realization forming slowly beneath her fear. If she had sealed it once, then she had believed it needed to be sealed. That meant whatever it was, whatever it represented, was dangerous. But the feeling inside her now did not match that fear. It was not chaos. It was not destruction. It was something else. Something vast. Controlled. Waiting. Lucien felt the shift before she spoke. He had lived long enough to recognize the moment a decision began to form, even before words followed. And this was not a moment he could allow to unfold unchecked. He stepped fully in front of her now, placing himself between her and the darkness, not as a barrier, but as a line she would have to cross consciously. You do not have to decide anything here, he said, his voice lower, steadier. Not now. Not like this. Lily looked at him, her expression torn between fear and something deeper. But it is already happening, she said quietly. The glow along her arm surged again, the symbol fully formed now, shining with a steady, undeniable light. The ground beneath them cracked slightly, fine lines spreading outward for where she stood. The chamber responded to her. Not violently, not destructively, but in recognition. The council saw it and stepped back as one. "This is beyond containment," one of them said, his voice no longer controlled. "My lord, if you do not act now, you will lose control of this entirely." Lucien did not look at them. His focus remained on Lily. Control was no longer the question. He understood that now. This was not something that could be commanded into submission. This was something that required choice. Her choice. And that made it far more dangerous than any enemy he had ever faced. The darkness spoke one last time, its voice softer now, almost distant, as if it no longer needed to push. "The door has opened," it said. "Whether it closes again depends on you." Lily closed her eyes, the light along her arm burning steady and strong. The memory was no longer distant. It was there, just beyond reach, waiting for her to take it fully. And for the first time since this began, she realized something that changed everything. The power inside her was not waking for the first time. It was returning. And whatever choice she had made before, she would have to make it again. The chamber no longer felt like a place within the castle. It felt like something suspended between moments, between choices that had already been made and those that were about to be made again. Lily Carter stood at the center of it, her eyes still closed, her breathing uneven as the light along her arms settled into a steady glow that no longer flickered or surged. It simply existed, constant, certain. The cracks beneath her feet had stopped spreading, but they had not disappeared. They marked the stone like quiet evidence of something that could not be undone. Lucien Voss remained directly in front of her, not touching her now, but close enough that if she fell, he would catch her again without hesitation. He did not look at the council. He did not look at the darkness behind her. His entire focus was on the girl who had just become something far more dangerous than any enemy he had ever faced. Lily opened her eyes slowly. The fear was still there, but it was no longer the strongest thing inside her. Something else had risen to meet it, something steadier. The memory did not come back all at once. It unfolded piece by piece like a door opening inward instead of outward. She saw the chamber again, not broken, not aged, alive with light that did not belong to torches or candles. She stood there, not as she was now, but as someone who understood what she carried, someone who had already made the choice once. "I remember the decision," she said quietly, her voice no longer shaking. The words settled into the room with a different weight than before. Not confusion, not denial, acceptance. The council reacted immediately, tension snapping tight again. "Then say it," one of them demanded. "Say what you chose." Lily's gaze shifted slightly, not to them, but to the darkness behind her. It remained where it was, no longer pressing forward, no longer pulling. Waiting. She took a slow breath. "I chose to seal it," she said, "because I knew what would happen if I did not." The words carried truth. Not complete, not fully understood, but enough. Lucien felt it. The certainty in her voice. The alignment between what she remembered and what the power inside her confirmed. "Why?" he asked quietly, not as a challenge, as a need to understand. Lily hesitated, her brow tightening slightly as she reached for the part that still remained just out of reach. "Because it would have changed everything," she said slowly. "Not just for them, for everyone." The chamber seemed to respond to that answer, the hum beneath the stone shifting into something lower, deeper, as if acknowledging the weight of that truth. The council did not accept it. That was then, one of them said sharply. "You do not know if that choice still applies now. The world is different. We are stronger. We could control it." The moment the word control was spoken, the darkness reacted. Not violently, but sharply, like something that recognized a familiar mistake. "Control was never yours to claim," it said. Lily flinched slightly at the tone, not because it was threatening, but because it felt too close to something she almost remembered. Lucien's gaze hardened as he turned slightly toward the council. "You will not speak of controlling what you do not understand," he said. His voice did not rise, but it carried enough. Wait to force silence again. Lily looked between them, her thoughts clearer now than they had been since this began. "They want to use it," she said quietly, not asking, realizing. The council did not deny it. Of course we do, the first one said, his voice steady now, conviction replacing fear. That power could secure our rule for centuries. It could eliminate every threat beyond these walls. It could ensure that no human or rival ever stands against us again. The words echoed through the chamber, sharp and undeniable. Lily felt something shift inside her at that. Not fear, not confusion, recognition. This part she understood. This part she remembered. Lucian saw it happen. The moment her expression changed. The moment uncertainty gave way to something far more defined. You have heard this before, he said quietly. Lily nodded once, slowly. Yes, she said. The memory sharpened. Voices arguing. Promises of power. Warnings ignored. And her own voice, steady and certain, choosing something else. She lifted her hand slightly, the light along her arm responding instantly, glowing brighter but not unstable. The symbol was complete now. Not forming. Not changing. Whole. I remember why I sealed it, she said. Her voice was stronger now. Clear. Because it does not belong to anyone. Not you. Not them. Not even me. The chamber went completely still. Even the hum beneath them seemed to pause again, as if the truth of that statement had reached something deeper than any of them could see. The council reacted first. Then you would deny us that power again, one of them said, his voice tightening with frustration. You would choose limitation over dominance. Lily met his gaze without flinching. I would choose balance, she said, because the last time someone tried to use it, it nearly destroyed everything. The words settled heavily over the room. Lucian did not look away from her. There was something in his expression now that had not been there before. Not control, not calculation, respect. The darkness behind them remained still, its presence quieter now, no longer pressing forward, as if it was waiting for something else. Not her decision, but what would come after it. And in that moment, Lily realized something else. The choice was not just about sealing or releasing. It was about what she was willing to become in order to make that choice hold this. Time. And that part, the part she had not remembered yet, was still waiting for her. The silence that followed her words did not feel like victory. It felt like the moment before something irreversible took hold. Lily Carter stood at the center of the chamber, the light along her arm no longer reacting to fear or doubt, but holding steady like a quiet promise. The truth she had spoken did not weaken the power around her. It clarified it, and that made everything more dangerous. Lucien Voss did not move. His gaze remained fixed on her, not as a ruler observing a subject, but as something far older recognizing an equal force standing before him. The council, however, did not share that understanding. Their restraint fractured first. Then we cannot allow her to make that choice again, one of them said, his voice sharp with urgency. If she seals it, we lose everything we could gain. Another stepped forward, more controlled, but no less determined. My lord, you must see this clearly. This is no longer about her. This is about what she prevents us from becoming. Lily felt the shift immediately. Their fear had transformed. It was no longer directed at the unknown. It was directed at her. That was when the darkness moved again. Not forward, not closer, but differently. It receded slightly, as if withdrawing from the center of the chamber, leaving space. Not for itself, for her. The meaning was clear without words. The decision was hers, but the consequence would not be hers alone. Lily's breath slowed as something inside her settled into place. The confusion that had clouded her thoughts since she first touched the bread was gone. What remained was something steadier, something she recognized, even if she did not fully remember how she had learned it. This power was not meant to be used. It was meant to be contained, not out of fear, out of understanding. Lucien saw the change happen. He stepped slightly to the side, no longer standing directly in front of her, no longer acting as a barrier. Instead, he created space, not to push her forward, but to allow her to choose freely. If you do this, he said quietly, his voice carrying only to her, you will not remain what you are now. Lily looked at him. There was no deception in his expression. No manipulation, only truth. I already am not what I was, she said. The words felt simple, but they carried weight. The glow along her arm brightened slightly in response, as if confirming it. The council saw the shift and moved again, this time without hesitation. Two of them stepped forward at once, faster than before, their intent clear. If the king would not act, they would. Lucian reacted instantly, not with force, with presence. He stepped between them and Lily, his voice cutting through the chamber like a blade. You will stand down. This time, the command carried something more than authority. It carried warning, the kind that even ancient beings understood. The council stopped, not because they wanted to, but because they recognized the line they were about to cross. The tension in the room tightened to its breaking point. Lily did not look at them. She did not look at Lucian. Her gaze turned instead toward the darkness that had once been contained. It no longer reached for her. It no longer called. It waited. That was the final confirmation. This was not about being chosen. It was about choosing. She stepped forward. One step, then another. The glow along her arm expanded, not violently, but with purpose, tracing across her shoulder and down her back, forming a pattern that felt complete for the first time. The chamber responded. The hum beneath the stone aligned with her movement, steady and deep. Lucian did not stop her. He did not reach for her again. That choice had already been made. The council watched in silence, their fear now absolute. Lily reached the threshold of the vault. The darkness shifted, not resisting, not advancing. A space opened before her, like a path that had always been there. She lifted her hand slowly, the light gathering at her palm, not as a weapon, but as something older, something that remembered what it was meant to do. This time, she did not hesitate. The moment her hand moved forward, the memory came fully, not in fragments, not in pieces, complete. She saw herself standing here before, surrounded by voices that argued for power, for control, for dominance. She saw herself refuse them, saw herself raise her hand, not in fear, but in certainty. And she heard her own voice, clear and unwavering. Some power exists only to test whether we deserve to. Refuse it. The light surged outward, not explosive, but absolute. It spread across the chamber, along the walls, through the cracks in the stone, sealing them not with force, but with finality. The darkness did not resist. It did not fight. It folded inward, drawn back into itself, contained once more. The hum beneath the castle slowed, then stilled. Silence returned. True silence. The kind that follows something ancient choosing to sleep again. Lily's hand lowered slowly. The light did not disappear, but it softened, settling back beneath her skin. The symbol remained, faint but present. The chamber held its breath for one long moment, then released it. Behind her, the council stood frozen, their expressions unreadable, their certainty shattered. Lucian watched her, something in his gaze shifting into something deeper than respect, something closer to understanding. And Lily Carter, who had once stolen bread just to survive another night, realized that survival was no longer the question. What she had just done had changed the balance of a world she did not yet fully understand. And it had tied her to it in a way she could never walk away from again. The silence did not break all at once. It unfolded slowly, like the castle itself was learning how to breathe again after centuries of holding something it was never meant to carry. The chamber stood still, the cracks along the stone now sealed. The darkness contained once more beneath a barrier that no longer flickered or trembled. It held, completely. Lily Carter remained where she stood, her hand lowered, her breathing steady but deep, as if she had just finished something that required more than strength. It had required certainty. The glow beneath her skin softened, but did not disappear. It settled into her, quiet and constant, like something that had finally returned to where it belonged. For a long moment, no one spoke. The council stood frozen, their earlier confidence gone, replaced by something far more difficult to hide. Not just fear, recognition. They had witnessed power they could not command. And worse, power that had refused them. One of them finally stepped forward, slower than before, his voice no longer sharp but strained. "It is sealed," he said, as if confirming it would somehow change the outcome. Lucien Voss did not look at him. His gaze remained on Lily. Yes, he answered quietly, and it will remain that way. The finality in his tone ended any argument before it could begin. The council understood, not because they agreed, but because they could feel it. The chamber itself had chosen its silence again. There would be no forcing it open. Not now. Not by them. One by one, they stepped back, retreating from the threshold they had nearly crossed. Not defeated, but changed. Their world had shifted, and they did not yet know how to stand in it. When they were gone, the chamber felt different. Not empty, but lighter. Lucien moved then, stepping toward Lily with a measured pace, stopping just close enough to see her clearly. You chose the same path, he said. Not as a question, as a recognition. Lily looked at him, her expression calm in a way it had never been before. It was never about the path, she said. It was about the reason. He held her gaze, searching for something. Perhaps doubt. Perhaps hesitation. He found neither. Then tell me the reason, he said. Lily glanced once toward the sealed vault behind her, then back at him. Because power that demands to be used is the kind that destroys everything around it, she said. And because someone has to be the one who says no. The words settled between them, quiet but unshakable. Lucia nodded once, slowly, not in agreement, in understanding. For the first time in centuries, the Vampire King was not the most powerful force in the room. And yet, he did not reach for control. He stepped back instead, creating space, not as a ruler, but as someone acknowledging another presence beside him. You cannot return to what you were, he said. Lily gave a small, steady shake of her head. I know. The truth of it did not frighten her anymore. It grounded her. Somewhere above them, far beyond the stone and shadow, the world continued without knowing what had nearly changed beneath it. But she knew. And now, so did he. Lucien turned slightly, his voice carrying once more, not to command, but to declare. From this moment forward, Lily Carter stands under my protection, he said. Not as a servant, not as a prisoner, but as something this kingdom will not raise a hand against. The words echoed through the lower halls, carried by more than sound alone. Law, promise, warning. Lily felt the weight of it settle around her, not as a chain, but as a shield. She looked at him, a question forming but not spoken. Why? Lucien met her gaze, his expression unreadable, but his voice clear. Because even kings recognize when something greater than their rule has chosen to stand, he said. And because this time you will not stand alone. The chamber fell silent again, but it was no longer the silence of tension. It was the silence of something resolved. Lily took one final look at the place where the darkness had once waited, then turned away from it completely. The pull was gone. The call had ended. What remained was choice. And for the first time in her life, that choice was truly hers. Together, they walked back toward the upper halls, not as ruler and subject, but as two forces bound by something neither of them had expected. Above them, the night continued as it always had. But deep beneath the castle, something ancient had been tested once more. And once more, it had been refused. Because even in a world ruled by darkness, it only took one person to choose the light and mean it.